All right, very cool. Hey, everybody, and I'm here today with my very special guest, Jon Davison. Thank you for
Hello,
joining.
everybody.
Yeah, so I met John not all that long ago. I think we might have met on a Cruise to the Edge experience or something like that.
Yeah, the last
Um,
one. Yeah.
yeah, but I've been lucky enough to see him perform with Yes, and I know a bit about John's background with all the music that he's made. Of course, he didn't just land on the planet and just start singing with Yes. He's had a lot of musical experiences and background, and it's great to be here with you. And I'm really looking forward to listening to this album because it is probably in my top two of all the
Yeah.
music that I love. It's an album that I just hold really close to my heart, and to share it
hmm
with you. And you've had the experience of singing it with some of the original creators, and of course doing an amazingly beautiful job of singing it, and
Oh,
projecting that energy yourself, which is, as we know,
thank
is
you.
just a wonderful headspace to be in. So
Yes, it
great to
is.
have great yeah yes, it is great to have you here with me, my friend.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
it's
much.
awesome.
It's an honor. And I agree. It's one of the top, it's probably my top two as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. Yeah. So is it one of your favorite Yes pieces of music to sing when you
Yes.
do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for years, we were doing it as a whole album from beginning to end as part of our album series. At the time, Chris Squire, bless his heart and his memory, he was still with us. I believe
Right.
for a lot of 2014 and most of 2015, we'd go out and do, at that time, we were doing all of Fragile and all of Close to the Edge
Wow, that must
in
have been so
one
intense.
show, one whopping performance across six
Yeah.
days a week. And
Wow.
I saw the introduction that you had created to promote tonight and or today where you are. I'm in England, but
Right. Right.
there were some video clips of me that I appreciated you putting in there. But it kind of took me back to that very time I'm thinking of. And I looked so tired in those videos. And I just remember that it was a good tired, though, how awesome it felt to be singing that 6 days a week and just
That's right.
really
It
going
must.
for it.
Yeah, it must be just emotionally draining because
Yes,
it's just
but in a good
nonstop
way as well.
projecting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I can
yeah.
kind of relate that to. I've been doing these solo piano shows, and the experience of doing the solo shows is very different than the energy projection experience is very different than I'm with a band. But in your case, being the center and the vocalist, it's kind of like whenever you're doing what you're doing, you can't. Oh, okay, I'm singing now, but it's more about the guitar play. You got to be like really, really on, especially in that kind of
You
music. It
do.
means
And you
so
always
much to
have to be,
everybody.
yeah, yeah. And you always have to be looking ahead, ready for the next curve, because things come so fast and furious in that music on all levels. Like you said, it's not about one instrument. Everybody has their place and things are coming in and out. And there's all these dynamics. And of course, the words being beautifully abstract, which don't really, they're the most challenging words to memorize because you
I
don't
was
have
gonna
much of a
say,
semblance to refer to.
wow. That's yeah, I totally get that. I remember hearing about, I don't know if I think it was real, but that there was a place online that you could go to automatically generate yes type John Anderson type lyrics. Did you ever hear about
Oh,
that?
wow. I think I have vaguely. That sounds familiar, but remind me of it. It's interesting.
It's just a funny idea. It might be, maybe one of our viewers knows about it, but you could go to a website and say, okay, generate like some yes style lyrics, and it would just do it. The
Yeah.
computer would just do it.
Yeah. You've got to have like a couple key words in that. You've got to have a river. So, river.
Hmm.
Fusion is another important one. And there are
Hmm.
several sort of Anderson isms that are essential,
Hope,
I think.
dreams, love, and
Yes. Oh,
all
yeah.
the yeah, amazingly cool. And I mean, that whole headspace was so great. I remember like
hmm
listening to some of that music and just feeling like, looking up like at the skies and just going, I feel like it's coming directly from the heavens.
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly, I guess the word is sort of magic. More than any other rock band, and there are a lot of progressive rock bands that touched on that sort of surreal, magical kind of thing. But I think above all else, Yes Music's perhaps the most majestic, touching on
Yeah.
so many elements.
Oh, you might have just frozen there. I think we have a.
Williams' influence comes
There you
across
are.
sometimes. I mean, all the elements thrown into that, folk and you name it. And of course, you know, what a unique blend of but very majestic. I guess that's the word I'd use.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I mean, it's like some of the themes, like even just the melodic instrumental themes. Like
Yes.
there's one particularly on and you and I, and whenever I listen to it, I'm thinking, where did that come from? Like, what was the day that, like, maybe like Rick Wakeman put his hands on the chords and Steve Howe like found the melody, and like, what kind of beams of light like came down and merged with them to write those melodies and chords. It's just
Yeah.
amazing. And I know that progressive musicians all over the world for years have been inspired by that and trying to understand that energy and kind of like continue that state of mind and that state of music.
Yes.
Right.
That's very true. Absolutely. And at the same time, it was actually quite uncluttered in the sense that there's all these different parts happening, structures developing, but themes are repeated and reinterpreted. So as we listen today, people sort of analyze that. It's sort of fun to think, like, for example, taking You and I. And if you take some of John Anderson's main vocal themes, say in the beginning, the Seeds of Life section, that's all that same sort of blueprint is then applied there, as it is to the other part when we come in with the where Chris Squire used to play the harmonica live in that section. It's actually sort of one sort of bookended theme that is then taken and reinterpreted rather than thinking, well, we've done this part. Now we've got to progressively go to another thing and another thing.
Yeah.
It was actually in more classical theme. I'm sure you agree that themes have really worked in many different with different shades. The same themes are reappear constantly.
Yeah, I mean it's totally like a classical thing. And what's interesting to
Yeah.
me, I was listening to the album and kind of, you know, preparation to listen to it again with everybody and just reacquainting myself with it. And the first thing that struck me was the fact that everybody, it's like I almost related it to like a Gentle Giant approach, although Gentle Giant's music is totally like different. But what I found to be a similarity is that everybody like developed their parts, and their parts are very unique. Like, you know, Chris Carr is doing this guitar thing with this shape and this movement.
Yeah.
Howe is doing something else, and it all merges together. And then there's this melody on top of it. It's not the standard kind of like, you know, put your hand like on a piano and play like singer songwriter kind of like piano and have melody over it, or just strumming
Right.
chords. It's very much part driven for everybody, and then okay, let's invent like a melody over it. And the way that it fits together, to me, created the really uniqueness of what we hear.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting when we would be working these songs up rehearsals. That was just as exciting as actually being on stage, where you would hear each band member trying to sort of navigate with the others and explain how they interpret things. In other words, Alan and Chris were counting something counting a transition or a part in a totally different way than the way Steve counts it. They all have their own
Mm.
little way of seeing the song, and somehow it all congeals beautifully and harmoniously.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I find that all the time, like with when I'm working stuff out with Dream Theater, and we do these very progressive sections. It's like I'll feel it in this particular way and somebody else
Yeah.
feels it in a totally different way. And if I try to get them to feel it the way that I'm feeling it, it'll totally mess them
Yes.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Especially on our new album, which was like a lot of it was like, okay, Mangini's playing in 23/8, but okay, but
Oh
you play in
God.
4/4 and you play in 7/8, and let's see where it wraps around.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well that's confusing, but yeah, but a little bit. But that is a real prog thing where everybody's playing
It really
in their
was.
own space and time,
Yeah.
but it works
Yeah.
out.
But it works out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
before we go to a Patreon only thing and we leave our Facebook and YouTube visitors, tell me how you've been doing with this whole lockdown and just
Oh
some
yeah.
headspace and everything.
Well, I guess it all starts when, Cruise to the Edge. Well, I guess that was 2020. Yes, of course it was. It feels so long ago in so many ways, but that was the Cruise to the Edge 2020. You and I were talking numerously because we had plans to do some performance together, didn't we?
That's
And
right.
then,
That's right.
yeah, and I actually have a memory of, I think, text you saying, yeah, it just came through. Yes, has backed out of the cruise, and how devastating that felt. And it felt like
Right.
a week later, the whole world went crazy. That's when the bomb dropped.
Right. Right.
And
Totally.
I had just finished a small US tour with John Lodge of the Moody Blues.
Yeah.
And the connection there is during the 2019 Cruise to the Edge, I had met his daughter, his manager, on the boat. We fell in love and have been together ever since.
Oh,
But she got me sort of involved with his band, which is such a great honor. That's a whole other story. But we had
wow.
gone to Barbados. They have a family home there. We had maybe 10 days between his tour finishing and when Cruise to the Edge was going to kick off. So we went to Barbados, ended up being stuck there. If you can imagine being stuck in paradise, probably a
Wow.
lot of people are thinking, oh, life is rough. But believe me, paradise is brilliant to vacation in. But to
Right.
actually
Right.
survive there and overcome all the COVID obstacles, it
Yeah.
was really something. And we were there till
Yeah.
about, my memory serves me correct, I think till about June of 2020. Luckily, what kept me sane there was not only having Emily's love and support, but yes, started working on a new album. So I was able to just dive into an escape world of creativity, which saved me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really, here we are all this time later, and we're still working on this album and pouring all our love and hard work into it. And it's just so exciting and fabulous.
Uh, yeah, that's awesome. So you're doing a lot
It's
of
really what I've
stuff
been
like just
time.
yeah. So you've been doing things like sending files and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
working that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then as soon as I was able to come back last summer, Steve and I have been getting together at the studio that we've been working in. So unfortunately, Alan and Billy couldn't come across to this side of the pond, but
Right.
Jeff, Steve, and myself have been able to actually physically be together for a lot of it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
really nice to have that. So we are going
yeah.
to actually be listening to all of Close to the Edge together and with everybody that's on Patreon. So I invite everybody that's out there to check out the link that'll be right in front of you to keep joining us for this listening experience. We're going to be talking about the album and having a really cool time with everybody, and people will get to ask John questions as well. And we're about to make that shift. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here. And now we will transition to Patreon only. So just give us a minute and we will do that.
All right.